3 a.m. text says, "Your wife's cheating. My bone-chilling revenge will haunt her forever." The clock struck 3. Darkness pressed against the windows, thick and heavy, as if the night itself held its breath. Then it happened. My phone buzzed, breaking the silence like a gunshot in the dead of night. I glanced at the screen, and my heart stopped. A text. Just 2 words. "She's cheating." Panic shot through me, hot and electric. My fingers trembled as I read the name attached to the message, my wife's closest friend. This couldn't be real. I could hardly breathe, my chest a tight vice. I felt cold sweat trickling down my back. What kind of cruel joke was this? The whispers of betrayal clawed at my mind. The walls of our home that once felt warm now loomed like a prison. I thought about those late nights she spent working late. My stomach churned. Memories twisted into shadows, stretching and morphing, showing me things I didn't want to see. My heart raced as I recalled her laughter floating through the hallways, now tainted with doubt. Could she really be unfaithful? Then the unexpected struck, a loud crash behind me. I spun, eyes wide with fear. Just the wind, rattling the window. Still, every nerve screamed at me to run, hide, confront. What if it was all true? What if she was with him right now? Anguish wrapped its claws around my heart like a vice, squeezing tighter. I needed answers. Just then, darkness flickered with strange shadows. Images of her betrayal pulsed at the edge of my sanity. I pulled out my phone, staring at the screen, feeling the urge to explode. Should I call her? Text her? Did I want to know? A deep breath rattled in my chest. Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. With that thought, my mind raced into overdrive. I couldn't just sit back and wait. A plan began to form, twisted and vengeful, sending icy chills down my spine. What if I turned the tables? Would she even notice my absence while I uncovered the truth? Just as I was about to decide my next move, another text popped up, "Meet me in the park." Midnight. My breath caught. Was this a coincidence, or an invitation to unveil a dark secret? The park, a place that used to be ours, filled with laughter and promises. What would happen if I followed her? The thought sent shivers through me. I could find out. I could confront them. And wouldn't it be sweet to watch her face when she realized I knew? A surge of adrenaline crashed through me. I was off, heart pounding, mind racing with plans for revenge that would haunt her forever. But how far was I willing to go? Would I be ready for what I found there in the dark? The shadows shifted wildly as I hurried outside, reality merging with the nightmares playing in my head. Questions spiraled as I stepped into the night, every one of them sharper than the last. The park loomed ahead, cloaked in darkness and mystery. A few flickering streetlights struggled against the night, casting eerie shadows on the paved path. I hesitated, a chill gripping my spine. It felt like walking into a trap. Every instinct screamed at me to turn back. Yet, the thought of her betrayal pressed me forward, urging me to uncover the truth. That I approached the entrance, my heart pounding so loud I feared it would echo through the trees. The familiar scent of damp earth mingled with the fragrant jasmine of the few remaining flowers. It felt surreal. This beautiful place was now drenched in deceit. I couldn't shake the feeling that eyes were on me. Was I being watched as I ventured deeper, toward the haunting embrace of the shadows? With each step, the leaves crunched underfoot, a reminder that I was not alone. I tucked my phone in my pocket, the screen lighting up the dark for just a moment before I powered it down. I wanted to be discreet, to find her without alerting her to my presence. If she was there, I needed to see before she saw me. Just as I rounded a bend, I spotted a figure in the distance. Panic shot through me, freezing my breath. It was her, my wife, standing nearly motionless, silhouetted against the backdrop of the moon. But she wasn't alone. A second figure, obscured in shadow, leaned closer, whispering something. I squinted, straining to make out the features of the man beside her. Was it him? The thought was a punch to the gut. Desperation clawed at me. I crouched behind a thick bush, my heart racing as I tried to suppress the urge to leap out and confront them. It was a delicate balance between curiosity and rage. I could hear her laughter flicker through the air, sweet and soft, like it had been before betrayal dimmed the light of our love. As they leaned in closer, I strained to hear their conversation. At first, it was muffled, just the rustle of the leaves and the distant sound of night creatures filling the void. But slowly, words slipped through. "I can't keep doing this," her voice cracked, filled with an uncertainty that egged on my anger. He'll find out. The knot in my stomach twisted tighter. The truth was seeping out like poison, and I was trapped in the crossfire of their sins. What was she saying? Did that mean there was more to this than I understood? But before I could collect my thoughts, the man reached out, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. The touch was intimate. It cut deeper than any knife. Hot rage surged through me, fueled by betrayal and humiliation. How could she? How could she risk everything we built for this moment in the darkness? In that moment, my breath came in sharp gasps as fury turned into a chilling resolve. I would expose them. No more lurking in the shadows. I had to show her I knew, to watch the horror rise in her eyes when the truth crashed down. As I shifted slightly to plan my next move, a twig snapped beneath my foot, loud in the thick night air. They both froze, heads snapping in my direction. My heart dropped. Would I be caught? "Who's there?" she called out, her voice trembling. I couldn't go back now. I had to reveal myself, but doing so meant exposing my heart to every consequence this moment could bring. That I stepped out into the open, my voice low but steady. "I'm here and I know everything." The look on her face was a mix of shock and fear. The darkness seemed to envelope us all, but I didn't feel alone anymore. The truth hung heavy between us. And that truth would be my weapon. What would happen next? Would it set off a chain of events none of us could control? In that frozen instant of silence, I braced myself for the storm ahead. The tension crackled like static in the air, thick and electric. I could see the confusion wash over her face, but the shock soon morphed into something darker, defensiveness mingling with fear. The man beside her, now just as exposed, straightened his posture, eyes narrowed. I didn't recognize him. Who was this interloper who dared to step into the chaos of my life? "Get out of here," she hissed, urgency lacing her tone. "You shouldn't be here. Shouldn't be here." My voice came out sharper than I intended, each word a dagger in the silence. "You're the one who shouldn't be here. Out here with him, behind my back." The man shifted forward, his shadow stretching like a predator's around her. "You're making a mistake," he said, his voice low, full of menace. "This is none of your business, so why don't you just walk away?" My fists clenched, muscles coiling tight as anger coursed through me. "You think I'd just let this go?" I stepped forward, ready to confront the man who had woven himself into my life uninvited. "You're nothing to me." But her. She's everything. The truth hung between us, a thick fog that blurred the reality beneath it. My wife's eyes darted from me to him, panic glimmering in their depths. Suddenly, everything shifted. "No. You don't understand," she cried, her voice quaking. "This isn't what it looks like. Please, just listen to me." "Listen?" I barked a bitter laugh. What could you possibly say that would change any of this? I've seen enough. Her expression cracked fragments of guilt and sorrow battling for dominance. It's not what you think. The panic in her voice wrenched my gut. Did she really believe that? Were my instincts so flawed that I couldn't even comprehend the betrayal she laid bare? Then tell me. I forced the words out, desperate for clarity, desperate for anything that would ease the clawing dread in my heart. Tell me the truth. What does he mean to you? Vince, please. Her voice was frantic, pulling her demeanor back into a desperate grasp of control. You don't need to be here, you don't need to do this. Just go home. Home. I nearly spat the word. Home is where you're supposed to be with me, not in a park whispering to some I almost said stranger, but I felt the tremor of recognition wash over me. Who are you, anyway? What have you done to her? As the confrontation escalated, I was acutely aware of the surrounding darkness, the trees whispering secrets that only I could hear. The tension rose, pushing down on us like the weight of the night. I noticed movement behind him, a figure darting in the shadows. My instincts kicked in. What was happening? A sudden rustle turned my attention, and just as quickly, a scream pierced the air. It wasn't ours. My gut twisted urgently. I turned just in time to see a dark shape vanish deeper into the trees. What the hell was that? Fear shot through the group. My wife's expression transformed from defiance to horror. Vince, we need to go. Now. But I was rooted to the spot, heart racing. What was lurking in the shadows? And why did it feel like it was gaining on us? Not yet, I said, locking eyes with her, unyielding. We finish this first. But another scream shrieked through the dark, raw and chilling, echoing through the park like a ghostly warning. Suddenly, everything spiraled. The night held more secrets than I was ready for, thirsting for blood, revenge, the past clawing its way back into our lives. How could we escape whatever darkness awaited us? As I turned back, my wife's expression shifted. What was she hiding now? Something was terribly wrong, and a new fear of the unknown stalked us all. What awaited us in the treacherous shadows? I scanned the dark park, the shadows pooling like ink in the corners of my vision. The screams that filled the air sent shivers racing down my spine. My wife's terrified eyes only added fuel to the fire burning deep inside me. What had I stumbled into? What did you see? I demanded, my voice a razor's edge cutting through her panic. I could feel tension tightening in my throat, the knot of rage suffocating my every thought. I don't know. It came from over there. She pointed, her hand trembling. We should just go. Please, Vince. This is all wrong. Wrong? I echoed, disbelief dripping from my lips. It felt like an unreal dream where nightmares manifest with every blink. You don't get to tell me what's wrong anymore. The man beside her, his face sharpened by the dim light of a far-off street lamp, stepped forward again. The way he moved was unsettling, smooth yet predatory. This is getting out of hand, he warned. You should leave before you regret it. Regret what? I stepped toward him, heart pounding, fists clenched at my sides. You think you can scare me off? I'd rather face whatever that was in the shadows than let you two walk away from this. But as the air thickened between us, the shrill echoes of unease pierced through my bravado, reminding me of the lurking presence. My heart raced with every heartbeat, and with it came the reality of my wife's betrayal. I fought against the swirling emotions: betrayal, anger, confusion. Vince. My wife's voice cut through my storm, desperation threading her words. He's right. We can't stay here. We'll figure this out later. Just before she could finish, there was a rustle again, louder this time, accompanied by more frantic screams that seemed to shatter the night. I turned, straining my eyes against the darkness, searching for the source. The shadows writhed around us, drawing closer. What is it? I shouted, but my voice felt small against the chaos echoing around us. A figure lunged into the glow of the distant streetlight, a glimpse of panic plastered across their face, eyes wide with fear. It was a woman. The ground felt like it shifted beneath me. She stumbled toward us, leg trailing blood. "Help!" she gasped, choking out the word. "He's coming." "Who?" I shouted, stepping towards her instinctively. My wife's hand gripped my arm tightly, but I shrugged it off, drawn to the terror radiating from this stranger. "There's a man." He wants to. Her scream cut off as she collapsed, eyes rolling back into her head. The world around us faded for a moment, the looming threat creeping nearer. My breath caught as something dark emerged from the trees, a figure with intent set on destruction and chaos. "Now!" my wife cried, wrenching my arm as she turned to flee. Forcing my body into motion, I sprinted after her, my heart pounding like a drum. The adrenaline coursed through me, urging me to run faster, to escape whatever horror was pursuing us. But in the wild momentum, I could feel something shifting in me, a sense of intertwined fate with my wife, the screams and shadows amplifying our shared chaos that we darted through the park, weaving past trees that clawed at our skin like skeletal fingers. "Where are we going?" I gasped, pushing harder, desperation fueling my steps. "Anywhere," she yelled, her voice barely masking her fear. "Just keep running." But deep down, a chilling thought coiled in my gut. It wasn't just the danger around us, it was the fear simmering between us. The truth loomed in the air, waiting to crash down like a thunderstorm. Would fleeing this place solve the deeper issues? Or was the real terror still hidden, lurking behind that darkened heart of our past? I could feel it, a weight pressing on us, desperate and unyielding. Darkness was clawing its way into the light. What truths would break free in our flight from the shadows? The ground felt like it was alive beneath my feet, pulsating with the fear that enveloped us. My wife's grip on my hand tightened, her panic palpable in the darkness, as we stumbled over roots and unseen hazards. Every rustle in the bushes sent fresh waves of dread crashing into my thoughts. "Vince, please," she implored, breathless. "We need to find help." "Help? From whom?" I barked, the anger bubbling up inside me again like a volcano ready to explode. "Everyone's running. Do you think anyone's listening? Just shut up and run." I glanced back, my heart racing. Shadows danced at the edge of perception, figures moving. I couldn't withstand the thought of them trailing us, a pack hunting in the dark night. I forced my legs to keep moving, each step echoing the pounding of my heart. The fear in her eyes haunted me. I longed to reach for the feeling we once had, love mingled with laughter, not this fear-fueled adrenaline race. But something gnawed at the edges of my mind. We were running from more than just some terrifying presence in the dark. I could feel it like a wall building between us, the betrayal seeping into the very air we breathed. "What if it's not safe?" I shouted, my voice strained. "What if you led us into something worse?" "Worse? Worse than getting caught by whatever that thing is? We can't stand around and talk about feelings. We need to." A chilling scream pierced the air, slicing through the night. It vibrated in my bones, sending cold shivers racing down my spine. I skidded to a stop, heartbeat hammering in my ears. The gloom swallowed the sound quickly, but the weight of it lingered like a dark cloud overhead. What was that? I hissed, scanning the shadows now brimming with sinister intent. Her voice faltered. "I think it came from over there." She pointed toward a clump of trees with dense underbrush. My mind raced through the implications. Was someone else out there? Or was it a trap laid out before us? I can't do this anymore. My anger spilled over. "You just run and run, but what about the truth? About us? About what I saw? Now isn't the time, Vince." Before I could respond, an outline broke through the darkness. A figure stepped into view, cloaked in black, his eyes glinting like shards of glass. I held my breath, bracing myself. "Vince," my wife whispered, quaking beside me. "Stay back!" I shouted, adrenaline twisting my gut. "Who are you? Do you think you can escape the past?" The voice slithered through the air, dark and taunting. "What do you mean?" I shot back, confusion blending with fear. The figure stepped closer, revealing a smile, a horrific grin that masked layers of malice. "You and your wife, you run from shadows that are already inside you, Vince. They're not out here. They're with you." A shudder rolled through me, and for a split second, all the anger and betrayal crystallized into a single image, a long-forgotten truth that threatened to unravel everything. "No, no," I gasped, shaking my head. "You're wrong." "Am I?" The night seemed to stretch, tensions coiling tighter than ever. My wife's breathing quickened, and I grasped for her hand. This was no longer just about fleeing. It was about facing the darkness lurking within, acknowledging the reality of our twisted relationship. "Run!" I shouted, pushing her toward the path ahead while keeping my gaze locked on that sinister figure. The moment of hesitation shattered as she darted into the trees, and I followed, heart racing. The shadows around us thickened, but now, more than fear, a brutal truth was circling us. What would I have to face to truly escape this nightmare? And would it tear us apart before we ever had the chance to make things right? The air around us grew heavier as the figure melted back into the darkness. My heart pounded like a drum, drowning out all rational thoughts. I could hear her frantic breaths beside me, each one a reminder of our fragile state. "Go faster," she urged, pulling on my arm. The forest stretched endlessly, twisted roots becoming our foes with each misstep. I stumbled, barely keeping my footing. Shadows flickered, sneering at us from the corners of my vision. "Vince, we can't stop," she gasped, panic creeping higher in her voice. "What if we go the wrong way?" My own doubt clawed at me. What if we run right into I couldn't finish the thought, but we both knew what lurked out there, whatever the figure was hinting at. But she was right. We had to keep moving. I shoved my doubts aside, pushing forward, deeper into the oppressive forest. As I ran, the branches whipped against my face, scratching like unforgiving fingers. We finally broke through to a small clearing, moonlight filtering through the treetops. We were surrounded by an eerie stillness, broken only by the sound of my ragged breaths. "Do you hear that?" she whispered. I strained to listen. At first, it was just the wind, but no. They're distant echoes of footsteps, shuffling through the leaves. My chest tightened again. We need to hide," she hissed, dragging me behind a battered old tree. As we crouched low, I could see shadows moving at the edge of the clearing. Figures loomed, their forms indistinct but menacing, drawn like a moth to light. They were searching for something. Or someone. "Stay quiet," I murmured, gripping her arm. But the moment was shattered when a branch snapped underfoot. The figures stopped, heads snapping in our direction. "Cut them off." A voice barked deep and raspy, like gravel sliding down stone. Panic surged. I leaned closer to my wife, the fright in her eyes forcing me to swallow the fear coursing through my veins. "We can't let them find us. Over there." Another figure shouted, pointing at our hiding place. I felt the weight of dread settling like a stone in my stomach as they advanced, their movements deliberate, hungry. It was like they could smell our fear, and that thought alone sent my pulse racing. "Run!" I urged, but the words came out more like a desperate plea than a command that we bolted from our hiding spot, the dark figures rushing after us. The underbrush tore at our legs as we fled into the abyss once more, each panting breath a reminder of our dire situation. "Vince!" she cried out, her voice strained. "What do we do? Where do we go?" A flash of light caught my eye, the distant glow of a cabin, tucked away behind trees. It shimmered like hope, a flicker in the dark. "Just run!" I yelled, my feet pounding against the ground as we sprinted toward the light. But as we neared, a sudden chill swept through the air, freezing me in place. The last remnants of sanity slipped away, and the truth hit hard. What if that cabin harbored worse nightmares than the ones chasing us? "Vince, keep moving," my wife urged, tugging at my arm. But I hesitated, the unease bubbling up from deep within. What if it's a trap? What choice do we have? Her words drummed a fierce urgency within me. With a deep breath, I nodded. "Let us go." As we reached the door, time seemed to stretch and contract, the surrounding night closing in like a vice. Would help await us inside, or another layer of horror waiting to consume us whole? The door creaked open as we stepped inside, my heart sinking at what lay before us. We were not alone. What horrors awaited within those walls? Would the cabin reveal the truth of our past or seal our fate? The cabin's interior was dim, the flickering light from a sputtering candle casting long shadows that danced across the walls. My heart raced as my eyes adjusted. A stench, a mix of dampness and something far more pungent, wrapped around us, tightening like a noose. "Vince," my wife's whisper startled me, her voice barely audible above the frantic pulse in my ears. "What is this place?" I couldn't answer, entranced by the superficial details that seemed out of time. Faded floral wallpaper peeling at the corners, a rickety table bearing old, moth-eaten cloth. And there, lying askew, was an open journal, pages worn and yellowed. Something about it drew me closer. As I approached, I noticed the scrawled handwriting, frantic and jagged. My fingers grazed the paper, and I felt a jolt like the touch of electricity coursing through me. The words leaped out, sharp and unsettling. They detailed bizarre happenings in the woods, a warning against the monsters that roamed at night. The things we did to survive echoed through my mind, ringing with a haunting familiarity. "Vince! Over here!" My wife's alarmed voice broke through my concentration. She was standing by a boarded-up window, the moonlight spilling through the gaps, illuminating her worried face. "We need to lock this door. They're coming." I hesitated, torn between the terrifying present and the ominous whispers of the past. But her urgency snapped me back. I hurried to her side, the sense of dread thickening with each creak of the old floorboards beneath us. "Help me with this," she said, fumbling with a heavy table. We pushed it in front of the door, our breaths heavy with panic as we braced for what was outside. The sound of shuffling grew louder, the monstrous figures still searching. I could hear their raspy breaths, each sound prickling my skin. They were close. I pressed my ear against the door, a shiver climbing my spine. Then I heard a different sound. A voice. "You can't hide from us." It was hauntingly smooth, like silk over glass. "What do they want?" she asked, her eyes wide with fear. "I don't know," I admitted, my throat dry, the weight of uncertainty sitting heavy on my chest. "But they think we're the ones they're looking for. Maybe we know. We can't let them in." Her desperation cut through my thoughts. A crash echoed behind us. The journal slipped from my fingers, thudding against the floor, the ink bleeding under the candlelight. As I turned to pick it up, another sound caught my attention, a faint cry from somewhere deep within the cabin. "Did you hear that?" I asked, my heart pounding against my ribs. "What if it's one of them?" she whispered, trembling. That I moved cautiously toward the sound, drawing closer to a door at the back of the cabin. The noise was softer now, almost pleading. Against every instinct, I reached for the handle and turned it slowly, each click echoing in my mind. Inside, a small room came into view, dark and musty. Shadows shifted, and I could just make out a figure huddled in the far corner, trembling, a child. "Help!" The whisper was weak, fragile like glass. My heart shattered at the sound. Suddenly, the front door exploded inward, slamming against the wall in a clattering crescendo. Shadows poured into the cabin like a tidal wave, their forms indistinct but chillingly familiar. I turned back in a panic, but the child was gone. The room emptied into engulfing shadows. "Vince!" my wife screamed, gripped with terror. Whatever had entered the cabin was no longer interested in lurking. They were hungry now, and we were the fools who stepped into their trap. My instincts screamed at me to run, but the weight of the door seemed to hold us captive. Then I realized. The figures had taken the child gone to draw us out into the chaos. What twisted mind would create such horror in the night? A shriek cut through the dark. "Leave us alone!" I shouted, desperation fueling my voice. "What if this is worse than we imagined?" My wife cried, clinging to my arm as the shadows closed in, darkness devouring all light that we had a choice. Face whatever horrors awaited us or fight to uncover the truth. But from the cold whispers echoing around us, I knew the truth would never be what we hoped. "Run!" I yelled, but the shadows were too close now. Would we escape, or would curiosity lead us to our doom? In that moment, a flicker of light caught my eye again, this time from the journal we'd left behind. It pulsed with an energy of its own, as if answering the call of the shadows. Suddenly, it struck me, the answers lay there, enough to either save us or damning us forever. "Vince, what is that light?" My wife gasped, eyes wide with fear and hope tangled in one breath. Should we go back? The noise around us built to a crescendo. We had to decide. I bolted toward the journal, each step feeling heavier, as if the shadows themselves were tightening around my ankles. My wife's fingers dug into my arm, her fear palpable, freezing me in place. "Are you serious? We can't go back," she whispered urgently, glancing toward the encroaching darkness. A cold wind whistled through the open door, wrapping around us like icy tendrils, carrying a grotesque chorus of whispers that danced just beyond the edge of understanding, but the journal was shimmering with an unnatural glow now, pulsing like a heartbeat. It was a beacon in the chaos. I could almost hear it calling me, promising secrets that might tether us to reality or lead us to ruin. "Trust me, I need to see it," I said, my voice strained with conviction. With a raw surge of determination, I yanked the journal up from where it had fallen, its pages fluttering wildly as if trying to escape. The shadows slithered closer, warping the flickering candlelight, distorting the cabin's familiar shape into grotesque silhouettes. My heart raced as I flipped open to the page that had captured my attention earlier. The ink had changed. Jumbled letters squirmed on the paper, rearranging like puzzle pieces, new words melting into the old, forming chilling phrases that chilled my bones. "They will take what is important," it warned, "the night demands its sacrifice." "What does it say?" My wife asked hesitantly, her breath hitching as she felt the weight of the unknown pressing in on her. "Sacrifice," I murmured, the word reverberating in my mind like a death knell. "We have to know what they want." Before I could finish, a scream pierced the air, high and desperate, echoing from the shadows. The child's plea, a sound so pure, so innocent, sent icy fingers of dread crawling down my spine. "No! Stay back!" I instinctively shouted, spitting the words at the darkness, as if I could chase it away. The shadows shuddered at my outburst, revealing movement, a figure darting to my left. Something small, something desperate. Heart racing, I leaned toward the noise, straining to see. "I'm here!" I yelled, but the only answer was a breathless chorus of whispers, taunting me, muddled with cries of helplessness. "Vince, run!" my wife insisted, pulling at my sleeve, her eyes wide with panic. "No!" My grip on the journal tightened. "We have to find them." I was compelled by a force I couldn't name. It felt like the journal itself was pressing me forward. I darted toward the sound, not knowing what awaited us. The shrieking escalated. "Vince! It's too late!" But in my mind, the words of the journal clung tightly, spiraling into a single terrifying realization. Were they after the child? The answer was evanescent, darting just outside my grasp. Crash! The floorboard beneath my feet splintered, sending me stumbling, the shadows swirling around me like a storm of despair. I fell, instinctively covering my head. The journal flew from my grasp, landing with a soft thud, the pages fluttering open on their own. "Just get up. We can't stay here," my wife cried, tugging me, urgency radiating from her words that I scrambled to my feet, the room spinning as I caught sight of the journal gleaming, but the words had twisted again. This time, they formed a clear, chilling image, a drawing of two figures grappling in the dark, the smaller one clasping a heart, dripping like crimson ink. What does it mean? I stammered, a sense of dread pooling in my gut. Suddenly, the front door shuddered as something heavy slammed against it. I clenched my fists. We have to fight, but as I turned back to my wife, horror washed over me. She was frozen, staring beyond me, eyes wide with terror. I whipped around. A figure loomed in the doorway, backlit by the moon outside, a dark harbinger that reeked of malice. In that dreadful moment, I realized we had awakened something that should have remained undisturbed. As it stepped closer, the air thickened, turning the cabin into a tomb. Who, it rasped, voice like broken glass, will be the first to spill blood? We were trapped in a nightmare from which there seemed to be no waking. As the shadows gathered at my back, swirling in a sinister dance, I felt the walls closing in, sealing our fate. I staggered, struggling to breathe, knowing deep down that our next move could unleash a horror beyond comprehension. Would we survive the night? Or would the darkness claim us as sacrifices of a forgotten nightmare? The figure tilted its head, an unsettling grin spreading across its face. Choose your sacrifice, and with that, the shadows tugged at my soul and began to tighten around my throat. As the darkness consumed us, I thought of the child. Was it too late to save what we held most dear? In that moment, the echo of the journal's final word rang ominously in my mind: sacrifice. The figure loomed closer, its features sharpening as the shadows twisted around it like tendrils of smoke. I could feel its cold stare piercing through me, draining the warmth from the air. My heart hammered in my chest, each beat a frantic plea for escape. Choose your sacrifice, the voice echoed, scraping against my sanity, leaving a residue of dread. What did it want? My life? My wife's? Vince, my wife whispered, her voice trembling, anchoring me to the flicker of hope amid the chaos. The shadows seemed to recoil momentarily, revealing her frightened yet steadfast gaze. Listen to me, I said, my voice low and steady, trying to quiet the roar of fear in my mind. Whatever is happening, we need to stick together. We can't let it pull us apart. I reached for her hand, squeezing it tightly, but as the figure stepped into the light, there was an unmistakable recognition in its hollowed eyes, the eyes of someone I knew all too well. My pulse quickened, blood rushing in my ears. Jessica. I gasped, disbelief flooding me. The darkness hung heavy, flickering in disarray, perverting her once familiar features. Is that really you? Vince, please. She was no longer the comforting figure I once cherished. The malice twisted her words as if she were a cracked reflection of herself. The night is hungry. It calls for a sacrifice. It's the only way to escape. I staggered back, my instincts fighting against the raw grief coursing through me. The chilling drawings in the journal flickered in my mind, reminding me that this was only the beginning. No. I shouted defiantly, pushing against the chilling grip of despair. I won't let you take anyone. Not her. I turned to Jessica, desperation clawing my throat. Fight it. You have to fight it. A twisted smile crept across her face, though she fought to maintain control. The shadows danced, contorting the room, obscuring the path to safety. You think you can save her? You don't even know what you're up against. With a swift motion, the figure lunged forward, extending a hand that blurred into darkness. Instinctively, I pulled my wife closer, shielding her from what was impossible to comprehend. Get back. I shouted, adrenaline fueling my words. I'll do whatever it takes. The shadows recoiled before rushing back, enveloping Jessica entirely. I could barely see her, but I felt her presence shuddering beneath the pressure, echoing her inner struggle. Vince. Her voice rose through the darkness, a mix of clarity and torment. You have to make a choice. Save me or let the darkness take me. You can't. The air crackled, charged with a sudden realization that made me dizzy. The journal lay forgotten on the floor, its pages glowing ominously. It was urging me, beckoning me to seek the truth buried within those haunting sentences. But at what cost? Each moment felt suspended, heavy with the weight of every decision. I fought against my own paralysis, knowing every second mattered. I refused to choose. I yelled defiantly, feeling an ember of rebellion ignite within me. The darkness snarled, pushing aggressively against my resolve. You think you can resist? Give in to the sacrifice, and I may spare what's left of her. Was I willing to pay that price? Would losing Jessica matter if it meant saving myself? I could hear the quiet sobs of the child from earlier, a broken plea somewhere in the distance. My heart wrenched. The journal pulsed with misty energy, demanding I confront the shadows in front of me, demanding I take a stand. Never. I shouted, spat the word like a vow. A flicker of light ignited from the journal, illuminating the cabin momentarily. In that brief sparkle, I saw the faint outlines of the whispers that had filled the air with despair. I reached for the journal, determination surging within me. I will break this cycle. I will save you, Jessica. But even as the shadows writhed and twisted, a chilling silence fell over the room. The weight of expectation pressed down, thick and heavy. What awaited me might surpass the horror I had already encountered, a true test of courage and love. Just as I grasped the journal, ready to unleash what I hoped could counter the darkness, the air snapped a crack like thunder, echoing through the cabin. Then prepare to lose everything, the figure hissed, as the room began to tremble violently, that I had awakened something ancient, a force that recognized no bounds. But was this truly a sacrifice I was ready to make? The echoes of the child's cries and Jessica's struggles melded into a haunting chorus, almost drowning me in despair as we headed straight into the heart of madness. What secrets lay ahead in the shadows? And would I uncover the strength to face them, or would the night claim us both? The trembling in the air thickened, wrapping around us like a suffocating fog as the shadows churned violently. In the sudden silence, a realization cut through the madness: the only way to confront the darkness was to wrestle the truth from its monstrous grasp. Jessica! I screamed, my heart tearing at the seams. I'm coming for you. And in that moment, clarity surged through me. The journal glowed under my touch, radiating a warmth that pierced the cold dread filling the room. The figure smirked, shadows twisting and writhing around it as if excited by my resolve. You think you can save the girl? You'll only doom yourself. The voice dripped with malice, but I pressed forward, stumbling toward the journal as a flicker of hope ignited inside me. The swirling shadows relented, but only for a moment. I focused on the page, glowing with fearsome intensity, whispering words I could barely understand but felt deep in my bones. Sacrifice. It demanded acknowledgement, a choice so heavy it threatened to crush my spirit entirely. Vince. Jessica's pained cry broke through the chaos, and the memory of the child echoed in the back of my mind. Innocence lost to the night, and it fanned the flames of my conviction. You're stronger than this. You can fight. I could see her struggling through the thickening darkness, and with every ounce of strength, I fought to hold the journal high, letting its light push against the shadows encroaching on her. But the figure loomed larger, swirling with dark purpose. You can't save them. They don't belong to you. I could feel the shadows pressing down, suffocating and relentless, but one thing remained unaffected: my love for Jessica. Everything we shared, all our laughter and pain, ignited a flame within me. I wasn't going to choose between us. All right. I shouted, the words tearing from my throat filled with burning resolve. If it's a sacrifice you want. The figure's interest sharpened, its grin full of cruel anticipation. I could sense the energy in the air shift, expecting my submission. With newfound determination, I continued, you can have what you want. But I will not sacrifice her, and I refuse to give you what you demand. I thrust the journal forward, its pages illuminating the deepest corners of our despair. The air trembled again, but this time, I felt light push through, illuminating the room in a kaleidoscope of color. The shadows hissed, recoiling at the brightness. I forged ahead, letting the flickering pages guide me further. I'll rewrite our fate, and you'll be the one who pays. The wraith-like figure screeched, caught off guard, and I leapt forward, aiming to disrupt its hold over Jessica. My heart raced as I reached for her, my hands gripping her shoulders firmly. "You need to remember who you are," I declared, pouring every ounce of love, hope, and resolve into the words. "Fight the darkness, Jessica. You're stronger than this." The shadows shrieked around us, flailing in a desperate attempt to reclaim their grasp, but slowly, Jessica's eyes regained their light, fighting against the encroaching darkness. "Vince," she breathed, her voice coming back to life. You found me." Together, we pulled against the dark, linked by the truth that we had faced everything together. As we stood against the consuming shadows, the figure screamed, its form unraveling, ripping apart as the light grew both brighter and fiercer. The journal exploded with shimmering energy, and I felt the promise of protection wrapping around us. The darkness shrieked, fading rapidly until we were left in a divine stillness, the harsh whispers replaced by silence. We stood together, panting, trembling not from fear but the sheer release of horror now lifted. The cabin remained intact, but the malevolence that had once permeated was banished, no longer able to seep into our lives. "What just happened?" Jessica asked, her eyes wide, searching mine. "He wanted us to choose. To sacrifice. But we did it together." The weight lifted, but a new determination filled its place. She stepped closer, and we embraced, exhausted yet resolute. "We may have escaped this night, but we have to reckon with what happened, together. No more hiding." As daylight filtered through the cracks of the boarded windows, I knew deep down our challenges were far from over. But hand in hand, we would tackle each one, letting the truth, painful yet liberating, become our guiding light. "Ready for the next chapter?" I whispered. She nodded, a small smile breaking through the remnants of fear. There was hope after darkness, and perhaps, we would find our way back to where we started, but now with stronger hearts and unshakable trust. As we stepped outside, the sun began to rise, bathing the world in warmth once more. The future was uncertain, yet it was ours to fight for. We had each other. The darkness may still linger in shadows, but we would never let it define us again. Subscribe immediately if you want to follow our next adventure. Smash that like button now to show your support. Flood the comments with your thoughts. What do you think we'll face next? And don't wait another second. Share this story with at least 5 friends who need a dose of hope.